And yeah, Mihir sir, you can start with the session. Thank you, sir.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. So hi everyone. I am Mihir, and let's talk about GSoC. So the plan that I have in mind is that I have a presentation with me, and I will share this presentation with you all after the meet. So you don't need to take screenshot, but if you have some questions, you can write down in the chat, and we can answer them later. So let's just start with the presentation. Just give me a moment. Okay. So can all of you see the full screen slide, or can you see the presenter mode?
Yes, sir.
Presenter mode is here. Yeah.
Okay, you can see presenter mode, so you can see all these notes and all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Okay, let's not do this. Let's directly go to simple slides, right? Okay, so hi everyone. So Google Summer of Code and how to get started.
Sir, I'm sorry for interrupting. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience so that they can connect with you?
Okay. Hi. So my name is Mihir. I am by profession I am an astrophysics researcher. I have done my master's from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai in astrophysics and physics. I have been a 2022 GSoC contributor in Open Astronomy, and that's why like Devendra has asked me to talk to you guys about how to get started into GSoC, and that's why we are having this session. So is it enough? Like,
Yes,
okay.
sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
All right. So this is going to be very simple session. I will talk to you all. So let's start with the presentation, because this is going to be an overview of what GSoC is, how to get started, what to prepare, and that should answer a lot of your questions. And then when you will have other questions, we will answer them as well. Okay, so before we talk about GSoC, so Google Summer of Code is an online program, and it is for open source software development. So before we talk about GSoC, we should actually talk about open source. So what is open source? A lot of you might already know this, but for those who don't, in computer software context, open source softwares are the softwares whose source code is distributed under an open source license. So it allows anyone in the world to study, change, improve, and distribute the software again. So if you find some good code example, and if you want to improve it, you can do this because the code is available to you, and then you can also redistribute it by saying that I have done this improvement. So what is great about open source is that it promotes collaboration over competition. So you all know about these companies of softwares who are like proprietary companies, so they own the code. You cannot change this code. But open source softwares are the softwares where you can actually see the code and you can change it and you can improvise it in the code. So this gives a kind of collaborative environment of
Sir, your mic is unmute by mistake. Please, can you please? Me, sir, your mic has been.
I just had to go back. Okay, is the screen again visible? Like slide visible? Hello?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So it needs a community of dedicated developers to continuously improvise the code. And basically, a lot of people around the world who are willing to do this open source coding come together. All of them are usually very talented, and they share a common goal of basically improvising this software and continuously updating it. And this is how the open source code development works. Okay. uh, and the goal of GSoC, when we say Google Summer of Code, is that to bring new people into the open source software development. So the question is, what is GSoC? Then the answer would be, it's a global online program, which generally happens in summer. So that's why Google Summer of Code. It brings new contributors into open source software organizations. So what happens within GSoC? So contributors work on some projects provided by these open source organizations under the guidance of some mentors. And while they do this, they also earn some good stipend for successfully completing this project. And when the program ends, the code that the contributors have written is released to the world for use. So your code will get released on online, and a lot of people can use it. And you can say that you have given this major section of a significant section of code, you have dedicated it to the software organization. So these are the goals of the Google Summer of Code programs. So as I said, it is basically to introduce new contributors to this open source software development. And what is most important is that when you apply to GSoC, what they look for is that you don't complete the program for like 3 months and then don't have any contact with that particular organization. What they want is that you continue your contribution into the organization even after the GSoC ends. So this is something that is very important. Uh, and essentially, when more people come into open source code development, you end up with more open source code, and that basically works towards the greater good. So, okay, so this was basically the goals of the program. But if you want to contribute into it, are you eligible? So these are the eligibility criteria, which are fairly simple. You need to be over 18. You should be beginner into the open source. It should not be like that you have already contributed a lot into open source and you are doing it. The goal is to bring new contributors into open source. You should be eligible in your country to work, and there are some other countries where you can't work in GSoC. This is something political, and yeah, you cannot work in GSoC for more than 2 years. So like if you apply this year and if you get selected, then you can only apply and get selected for one more time. You can't do it for more than 2 times. Okay, so this is the program structure. So on the top, you have the GSoC team where there are some people from Google who will be in this team. They organize this entire event. Some of them are called program admins, so they oversee entire thing. If you have, like they basically determine the timeline of the program, which organizations will be in the program, those kind of things. Then under this hierarchy, like under this Google Summer of Code team, you have different organizations. So for example, let's say Python is one of the organizations which always takes part into GSoC. For example, Julia is there, and there are other number of open source organizations. So all of them comes under this larger team. So every year, number of organizations first apply to get selected into GSoC. Just like a student apply to get selected into GSoC, organizations also have to apply to GSoC. And then Google Summer of Code team will then select a few of the organizations whose projects are good, and they satisfy the requirements as accepted organizations. Once these organizations are accepted, they also have some members from the organizations who will act as organization admins. And each organization will then have a number of, okay, can you see my pointer? Yeah. So each organization will have a number of projects which will be proposed by organization at some level during the timeline. And there can be some projects which are proposed by student as well. So these are the projects, like for example, there will be few projects that organization itself has planned to do, and they want some student contributor to come and work on that project. So those projects will be listed somewhere on the site, and I will come and talk about it later. And it can also happen that some student might already know the organization, they know the code base, and then they might have found some issue, and they would suggest to the organization that there is this issue in your software, and I would like to work on it. And if they provide a sufficient good enough plan for it, then that can also be a project. So for each organization, you will have multiple projects. I have shown 3 here, but it can be more than that. And to each project, there will be some mentors assigned. So for typically you get 2 or 3 mentors. Sometimes it can be more than 4. It depends upon the complexity of the project. And then at the lowermost level comes like we people, the contributors. So um, for each project, there can be either one or more contributors. It also depends upon what is the length and complexity of the project and what organization decides they want. So this is basically the hierarchy of the project. Okay, so how does GSoC work? So this is sort of a timeline thing. So first of all, when the GSoC gets announced, various open source softwares who would like to get participated into GSoC, they apply as a mentor organizations. Then Google Summer of Code team, which was at the top, they choose some of these organizations based on various eligibility criteria and all. So in 2022, for example, about 198 organizations was selected. Once this selection is complete, then Google will release the list of organizations that are accepted for this year's, or like, for example, 2023's Google Summer of Code. Then contributors will come into play. They will look at these organizations which are taking part, and then they will select some of the projects proposed by these organizations. And then they will prepare a written document called proposal for these projects, and they submit that to mentor organizations via GSoC site. Then mentor organizations choose this contributor depending up by evaluating their proposals. They're also paired with their respective mentors, which will help them throughout the project. And finally, the coding begins. So once you get accepted, some of the proposals will get selected, and then you will start coding. And typically this will go on till 12 weeks, but it can be extended depending upon whether your project is lengthy or your mentor thinks that you need more time. So there are some flexibility to that, but typically a 12-week project is there. Okay, so what do students do while all this thing is happening at organization and Google Summer of Code team level things? So at some stage, you have to talk to organizations. This is your first step, basically. You basically make contact. You talk to them and ask about what specific projects they are going to propose. They will typically have a list of projects, and sometimes, as I said, students can also suggest some project. Then you work, like you prove yourself, you solve some bug or issue into their software, and you basically show them that you have enough skills to work on those projects. Once these two things happen, there can be also a specific competition kind of thing before you write your application. So like to prove your skills, you might have to go through a proper test or something. Once that happens, you basically write your applications. You give a rough idea to the organization that how you want to work on this project, what will you implement, what will you think is better for the project, etc. So this will happen between in like March and April. So for this year, I think it is 20th March to 4th March. In between this time, you will have to submit your application. Then organization review your proposals and then select the best students according to them. And then the GSoC basically begins. After this, mentors will be in continuous touch with you, and they will also help you in overcoming the difficulties that you encountered during the project. Okay. So there are two types of projects. One is medium-sized project, so they require less work. So they expect about 175 hours of work. And for that, in India, you typically get stipend close to $1,500. And then there are also large size projects which require around 350 hours of work, and the stipend is of $3,000. So standard coding period is of 12 weeks, and it can be extended up to 22 weeks depending upon approval of mentor, etc. During the project, you have to do 2 evaluations, so you have to pass both of them. The midterm evaluation comes midway, and then there is a final evaluation. Once you complete one evaluation, a portion of your stipend will be released and it will be given to you. And once your final evaluation is done, your code is basically merged into the open source organization that you are working with, and it will be released to the public to see what you have done. So this is the timeline of 2023 program. GSoC 2023 is announced a few days back. From January 23 to February 7, some organizations will apply. On February 22, you get list of accepted organizations, and then students start to submit their proposal between this part, March 20 to April 4. On May 4, so like after a month, accepted students will be announced, and then the community bonding period will start. And after a month, I think the coding period will start, and it will end in September 5. And if your project is extended, the hard deadline is on November 6. Okay, so this was the overview of GSoC, but why should you participate in GSoC? So first thing, it introduces you to this collaborative way of coding it instead of competitive way of coding. So if you are a college student, you are also familiar that all of you must be trying to write better and better codes and compete with your peers. But in open source, you contribute what you can, and then other people will also contribute what they can, and thereby collectively improve your code and its quality. Secondly, you get to work with this amazing, well-known foundations, organizations. So basically, your portfolio becomes good. You can say that I have worked with these people, I have worked for this particular organization. You get a lot of exposure. Your mentors usually form a good bond with you, and then they also help you in later stages of your life. They can guide you where to go, where about for your job, and in life basically. You also get to learn a lot of new skills because you are working on some project. So you also learn a lot of professional practices, because this is not some college exam. This is something where you are actually working for some well-known international organizations. So you learn a lot of professional practices. Yeah, you get mentored by very highly skilled people. So you pick up a lot of skills from them. It looks impressive on your resume, and of course you also get some stipend. So these are main reasons why you should participate in GSoC. And also, in addition to all those things, the experience of working in GSoC is very good. You work with a lot of amazing people. You get a lot of confidence because now you have worked at international level. So all of this is very important. It's a great experience, to be honest. So are you good enough? Like everyone have this question that am I good enough for GSoC? Like I know what GSoC is. Um, so to answer this question, you just need to answer these two questions. That do you have some programming experience? Like do you know basics of the programming? If yes, then are you comfortable with at least one programming language? Like if you know Python, if you know C, if you know Java, it doesn't matter. But one programming language you have to be completely comfortable in. And if answers to both of these questions are yes, then essentially you are good enough. You can apply. Um, but you also have to prepare because a lot of students apply into GSoC and all of them prepare. So you will also have to prepare for this. And I have some basic preparation guidelines for GSoC. So these are the basic things that you must know for GSoC. For example, first is GitHub. Like you all have to learn how to use Git because most of open source softwares will use GitHub. So you need to learn how to use that. Some good ideas like VS Code, PyCharm, etc. A basic good coding practices, and also testing framework, how to do automated testing. All of these things you can learn by doing, but it's best if you know it before GSoC. So for example, when I was applying, I did not knew some of these things because I'm not from a professional computer science background. I'm from physics and astronomy background. So I didn't knew how to like what VS Code is, and I didn't knew how to do testing. But I had to learn all this during the time of my project, and that took a lot of time and effort. But if I know it before applying to GSoC, then it becomes very easy for me to work at that particular time. I don't get burdened by all these simple little things. Uh, Sometimes it may happen that you are using Windows system, but your project requires some kind of Linux kernel or something. Then you need to know how to use WSL or how to do the dual booting on your computer. So like figure out those simple things. You should have clear fundamentals. Like if you are applying and if you let's say get selected, but if you don't know what are functions or how to write a modularized code, then you get into troubles. Also, you need to learn how to read errors because a lot of errors will come during the time of your project, and you need to figure out because people will not help you in every simple little errors. Very important, learn to Google. Like lot of information is already available online. You just have to learn to Google and ask questions where it should be. Uh, Very important, another thing, practice reading documentation and code. So like when you will apply to GSoC and when you will get selected, even during the application period and even after that, you will have to like install a lot of softwares on your system. You might have to read a lot of documentation because you want to essentially contribute something to the already existing code. So you need to know what other part of the code is doing, right? It's not like you are doing something from scratch. So you will have to read a lot of documentation, and if you don't have the practice to read at this point, then at later stage it becomes very difficult because uh, like for example, I was supposed to do a coding, okay, and I did not know the code base of that particular organization, then I wouldn't know how to start. But if I know how to read codes, then I can like quickly go through the code base and understand how to start contributing. So practice doing these things. Learn to follow installation guides. Like typically when we work with new libraries or something, we usually have a clickable link which will just install that software into our computer, or just like writing pip install or something, that kind of command. But when you are in the developer environment, you have to sometimes download specific versions of the code, specific versions of the software, and for all those things you don't have a clickable link. You need to know how to follow their installation guide and install them, set up them onto your computer. So those are the things which you should practice from now. Specifically, like installing and setting up packages from GitHub and other such uh, websites. Okay, and also learn how to communicate properly in professional manner. Like these are the people who are some of these people who will be working with you in GSoC are actually very busy people and are very well known in their field, very talented. They want you to work with them as peers, and sometimes when you become very clingy or you don't like convey professionalism with your communication, it becomes irritating to them, and you end up getting not selected, or not getting good feedbacks on your application, etc. So professional communication is very important. Okay. um GitHub. So a lot of people, like, I don't know what is the condition for this group. Like, I have seen that Devendra has given some tutorials on GitHub, but if you are scared of GitHub, then start learning GitHub, because what you know can't haunt you. And you don't need entire CLI knowledge. You just need to know basic know-hows of GitHub. You have to, do pull request, how to work with remote and local, and how to clone repository. And for that, GUIs are also good enough. Like in my case, I did not know GitHub for a very long time, and I had to actually figure this out while doing my contribution in the contribution period. So it took a lot of time, but if you already know it beforehand, then it becomes very easier for you. So these are the like basic things: remote versus local, how to push or pull, um, fork, working with repositories, how to manage forks, and creating pull requests. Very important, creating issues and attaching those issues to PR or PRs to issues, how to write commit messages, all those things are important. How to revert your commit. Like basically, it may happen that sometimes you make a mistake and then you would like to revert your commit because you don't want your mentor to just come and scold you that what you have done here. Okay. Uh, Also, sometimes you need to learn how to how to remove the merge conflicts. This doesn't happen very often, but it may occur once in a while. The other thing which is highly recommended is VS Code. It may look very complex, but it's a lifesaver. Uh, so start using today. And the basic philosophy is that use and learn. Like you use VS Code and you will get some problems. You try to Google it and learn from Google, and then again use those new additions, and this cycle continues. So this is how you basically will get experience with VS Code. There are very useful extensions available in VS Code. Like I'm saying about VS Code because VS Code is like very popular. But if you prefer some other ID, that's fine. That's up to you. So VS Code has a GitHub extension. It has a WSL extension. So all of these are very important. In my case, I had to actually integrate WSL with VS Code because my code at starting stage was only good for Linux. It used some libraries which was only available in Linux. So I had to install WSL. I had to integrate it with VS Code and do this. Also learn how to do testing, install testing suites of VS Code. There are also some organizations would require you to sort of write the code in a proper formatted manner. So for that, there are formatting code formatters available on VS Code. Linters are available, so you can use them. And in order to use that, you have to learn how to use it. So if you do this right now at this particular stage, it will make your life very easy. It also like gives some technical messages while you write the code. If you can read them and understand what it is saying, then it will resolve a lot of error before compiling the code. So debugging is optional, but if you know it, it's a plus point. Okay, so this is like overview of what you should prepare, but let's go a little bit into detail of what you can do. So in December and January, this is the period where most of the work will be done by organizations who want to apply to GSoC. But at this point, you can do certain things, and so this next few slides is about that, what to do in December and January. So once GSoC is announced, so in our case it's GSoC 23. So first thing that you go about doing is you decide on what your interests are. So like there are multiple numbers of organizations are coming in. All of them are using different technologies, different programming languages. So you have to first decide that which programming language, which technology that you want to work with. Okay, so for example, and it's like everyone usually finds something for themselves. For example, when I decided to apply for GSoC, of course I couldn't compete with the computer science people who will be applying to TFX or big computer science, computer software companies. But I had a background in astronomy, so I looked for the open source organizations which essentially worked for astronomy, and actually I found one. So you will always have some company available, some organization available for your interest. So first narrow down your interest, that I want to work on this technologies, I want to work on this languages. So select one or two programming languages, that is good enough. Even if you know only one, that's fine. Then you actually go to GSoC website. It will have a link to what are the past organizations, like which organizations had participated in GSoC 2022, for example. It will also have list of organizations which have participated at previous years, like 2018, 2017. Those kind of lists will be there as well. So go through what organizations are there, um, and select a few of them, like narrow down some interesting organizations, and be careful about which organizations you select. I will come to that, what I mean by be careful. Um, but basically they should align, their work should align with your interest, because ultimately if you get selected and if you participate in, like if you complete your project, you will put that project in your resume, right? And it should happen that it should resonate with your resume, it should increase its value. So this is like basic thing. Each organization which will take participate in GSoC will have some way of communicating with them. So there will be some communication channels. So either they will have Slack accounts, or they might have Gitter accounts, or some other kind of community messaging services. They will also most likely have some Google groups. And these information will be available on websites. So like join them, and that way you will enter into the community. Then most important thing, observe, learn, and introduce. First of all, observe what is happening within that particular community. So for example, you have joined some Slack channel, let's say, okay, some organization, and they have some Slack channel. You went in, so you will be able to see that there will be one general channel where people will just comment general things. They will talk with each other, and then there will be some particular channels which will be dedicated to some projects or some issues, etc. So observe all of these things, and then learn what they are communicating about, what they are talking about, how important some projects are to them. Okay, what are the people who are very active, who are the people who are less active, that kind of thing. And third thing, introduce yourself. Like you have joined to this Slack, this which is like a party. Then introduce yourself, like who am I, what is my background, and why I have joined here. Right? So you can just say that, hi, my name is this and this, and yeah, I am a student, or I am a professional, I have this experience, and I want to take part in GSoC 23, and that's why I'm here. So simple things like that. Then ask proper questions related to the projects that you are interested in, um, or or questions related to community that you have joined. Like for example, you want to know, um, like if you have interest in some X project, then how to do this project, or what they are thinking, those kind of questions, but carefully. Um, Before you ask these other specific questions, please read and follow the GSoC guidelines. So each organizations, along with this communication channel, will also have a dedicated GSoC webpage where they will have written some guidelines for the new contributors that want to take participation into the projects. So read and follow this guidelines. So they will typically have a good explanation of what to do once you join the community. And once you do all this, then you start contributing to their projects, like not to their project, but to their community, because contribution to the project will start at a later stage. Okay, so essentially be present minded. Okay, see what is happening and act accordingly. um, so you can start contributions in early days, because basically when you contribute, people will see your skills, people will see what you want to do, whether you are consistent, because they want consistent people who can eventually join their community at later stage, even after GSoC, and continue coding. So there are some risks and benefits of contributions. Okay, especially early days contribution. So what are the risks? So first of all, this is the period, January, December, where organizations don't know whether they are going to get selected or not. Okay, their application is in selection procedure. So a lot of good, nice projects do not get listed in this phase. Some projects will be there, and I will show the example of it at later stage. So some projects will be there, but some good projects will only get appear after the organization gets selected or at the later stages, etc. And yeah, like you contribute into your organizations, like your chosen organization, and it may happen that they don't get selected. Like so, whatever work you have done for it, it just gets in vain because they are not selected for GSoC this year. On the other hand, there are also some benefits, like when you start contributing early, you have increased chance of selection, because people who are going to select you are seeing that you are active into contribution, and you are doing a lot of contribution right now. But that is also if you have contributed correctly, like by following the guidelines. um, you can also acquire familiarity with the code base. So like when you start up contributing early, when you start coding for the community, you start knowing what the code base is, what are the familiar issues of the code base, what are the things that need to be improved upon. So at later stage, this becomes very advantageous to you. And essentially you get a head start. So there are some benefits and this risk, and you have to mitigate those risks. So before we talk about how to do that, let's go back and see how to do organization selection first. So first of all, as I said, your interest has to be there, because you are going to contribute into this particular organization. If you don't feel interesting enough, if you don't feel that organization is interesting enough to you, then you might have a chance of just dropping your project. But doing that is like not good. Don't do that. Also, you should be familiar with the software. Like if you are applying to some software, you should know what that software essentially does, what their end products are, what are their users. For example, when I wanted to select organizations, I immediately went to Open Astronomy, because I have used the organization like softwares which are falling under Open Astronomy umbrella organization, like AstroPy and others. There are number of libraries which I have used. So I am an end user of this software, so I know what I expect as an astronomer from this particular organization. So when I go back to their code base, I can see that these are the issues which needs to be fixed. These are the issues which are going to be very important to even people who are actually developing this code, because they must be getting requests from astronomers like me that please fix these issues, right? So this familiarity helps a lot. Secondly, you should have skills. Like if you know only PHP and like web development things, and if you just apply to ML for science for machine learning projects, you are most likely not getting selected, because you don't have the skills for that. So first, you also have to have skills for this project that you are going to do. And typically, when you will see the list of the project, they will have some tags with the project which says that which skills are required to complete this project. So be sure to read them and act accordingly. Like third thing, evaluate your competition. So like there will be some popular organizations like Mozilla. Okay, so a lot of people would like to contribute into Mozilla, and there will be a lot of skilled students, extremely skilled students who will be applying to that. So you have to realistically evaluate your position among your competitors. Like if you are good enough, go ahead and apply. But if you feel like you are not good enough, then maybe select another smaller organizations where you have more chances of getting selected with your skill set. So typically new organizations have less competition, but there is also a problem that they typically get less number of projects and they accept less number of students for that project. So like you have to balance these things out. Very important thing, check the responsiveness of these organizations. Like when you join the Slack channels or other community channels, some organizations will be very accepting, they will be very responsive to your queries, your introduction, and other than that also they will become continuously interacting with each other. Like people will be asking questions in general. So these are the communities which are good signs, because there are a lot of active members, so someone will definitely guide you whenever you are in some kind of problem. um, some organizations typically very beginner friendly, so they really want more people to come in. um, on the other hand, there will be some organizations where people will be extremely busy and they won't be interested in mentoring students. So maybe not go to those communities if you feel that you are going to need a lot of help from your mentors. So this is one more thing. And always keep in touch with multiple organizations, because at this stage you don't know how many organizations are going to be accepted. So if you just dedicate all your time to one particular organization, and that organization doesn't get selected, you are basically doomed. Sometimes if you participate into a well-known organization but there is too much competition and you don't get selected, so always have a backup organization. Like keep in touch with multiple organizations. Most people usually try 1, 2, or 3 organizations. Some start doing more than that, but then it becomes very much tidy to keep up with all the organizations. So like uh, take a generous number like 3, 2, that kind of. And now, like once you select the organizations, these are the steps to lower down your risk. So first is of course narrow down the organizations which are going to be repeatedly selected in GSoC. So like some organizations are very famous and they apply every time and they get selected every time. um, so those organizations are safe choices because they have been getting selected for a long time and they will get selected most likely. In order to find out which organizations have been applying and getting selected since lot of time, this is a good example of, like, this website lists all this. So let me show this website to you. Okay, so this is note that this is not a official website. This is developed by some person. This is their link to their GitHub, but it is pretty accurate. So what you see here is that there are 434 results. So there are 434 organizations listed here um, in some order. So these are all the organizations who have ever taken part into GSoC. But then there is an option to sort of filter them according to these various criteria, like whether they have participated in 2022, so you get 193. Then if they have participated in 2021, like let's say I want to choose a safe option, so let's look at the organizations which have been getting selected for past 5 years, let's say. So I have 90 results. Now there is also this categories and technologies. So I also want to work, let's say, with organizations that essentially need Python. So I will select Python. So the number of organizations has decreased. And then maybe I want to work on organizations which are primarily interested in machine learnings. So you can select that, and you can see that these are the organizations which basically um, require machine learning. So this follows all these criteria, and then you can investigate more about those organizations by clicking on them. So this is a good example. Let's go back to our slide. Also look for organizations which are well known and encourage early GSoC contributions. So there will be some organizations which typically would want you to only contribute after a certain period of time. Like at certain stage only, they will allow people to start contributing and then later on apply for GSoC. But there are some other organizations which will encourage you to get started early because they require that kind of thing. So for example, this is an example of Jenkins. So GSoC has just been announced and they already have their GSoC page up and running. They already have this project, which is like proposed project, and there will be few more in coming days. So these are the kind of organizations which typically want you to start contributing early. They already have thought of a project. Um, also, always go to the organizations which are extremely active. It's a good sign. And always try to find out any particular selection procedure that they follow beforehand. Like before contributing, read their guidelines essentially. So for example, this is a guideline for 𝗏. You all should like maybe know about 𝗏. So 𝗏 has this is their GSoC page, and there is this introduction about 𝗏, what they did in GSoC 22, and then there is this section for students where in the first line itself there is a guideline for students, and they have actually mentioned here, if you read this carefully, that they would only want student to contribute after a certain time. Like for example, they've also written that they want people to contact their mentors only after March 7 and only before April 4th. So you have to follow all those things which they already have written. If you don't read and start doing what you want, then there is a chance that they might get irritated with it and they don't select you. So always try to follow if there is only like given guidelines for the students. Okay. So then comes the project selection. So at this stage, you still have a lot of time. So narrow down 3 to 6 projects. Typically in GSoC, you can only propose for 3 projects, but right now it's good. It's okay to go till 6 projects. And you can apply to more than one projects in the same organization. That is fine. They should align with your interest and skills, and also if the project is very complex or large, then also take into account your experience. Uh, yeah, so this website gives number of organizations selected for each organization. So for example, North, 52° North, if you click on that, you will see this graph. So that will show you that at each year, how many projects have been already selected. So you get a typical number that for this organization, they will expect this many number of projects to get selected at later stage. So if the number is high, then your chances are also high. If the number is low, then your chances are also low. Again, see what the selection process is. If the process is very lengthy, then maybe, and if it is very hard project, then maybe it's not worth applying for, because you invest a lot of time in applying and then you don't get selected. So mitigate, like basically evaluate these things before selecting your projects. Very important thing, like get a bigger picture that whether your project which you are interested in, is it important for the organization? Because what will happen, let's say some organization is there and they have, let's say, proposed 30 projects at some point of time. Okay. But now Google will not allow all the 30 projects to be selected. They will allow, let's say, around 15 projects to get selected. So the organization will list these projects according to their priority. Like, we want this project to be definitely there and this project is not that much important. So if your project is not that much important, then even after 15 projects getting selected, your project will not get selected. So see what is the importance of your project. Uh, and this you can actually find out by probing into community channels. Like when you ask questions about that project or see what people are talking about that project, you will be able to see whether this is important for your community or not. And also having a good idea about what that particular software does will also tell you whether the project is important or not. So once you figure out all this, then it's like good to start contributing. And even if I have shown you those websites, the most authentic document for contributing is basically the GSoC page of particular organizations. They will definitely have a very detailed information on how to start, and strictly follow those instructions for your organization. Yeah, and again, find, like, basically read that and then go to the projects, go to the particular organization, see what the code base is. If there is a contributors guideline available there, there will be a guideline for general contributors, and there might be a specific guideline for GSoC students. Like, so go to that. Let me show you a website of Open Astronomy, which is the organization where I contributed in. And let me give an example here. So this is the website of Open Astronomy. Like, you can find out about it just by typing the name of that particular organization in Google as well. But I already know what the website is, so that's why. And you can see that there is a definite, like, given link to the Google Summer of Code. So each organization will most likely have that page. You go there and then there will be a lot of information. So here they have given information on, like, what is GSoC. If you have not heard about GSoC, then you can start from here. This is not updated yet, so this is for 2022, but essentially this information stays same over the time of years, so you can read about it early on. So they have also given some quick links. There are some good guidelines of how to contribute, and there is also an ideas page. So this will list all the ideas proposed by those organizations in the past. So you can go to one of them, and there you will find this kind of setup where the different projects are listed. So for example, this is the project that I did, and here you can find these links of contacts to your mentors, so who are going to mentor this particular project. And there is also this tag like GSoC. It's going to be a large 350-hour project. Stingray is the organization. If you click on it, you will typically have some detailed information. And here there is a requirement. What you require for this project is only Python and familiarity with time series methods is required. So this may not look same for other organizations, but typically there will be some informations like this. What they expect after your first evaluation, what they expect after your final evaluation, who are the mentors, if there is a related issue already available in their GitHub source, then that will be listed here. So basically these things, you have to read all these things and then you start contributing. Yeah. So where were we? Okay. So you do all these things and then you go to their GitHub page. There will be an issues page available, and there will be multiple issues open, which they would like you to solve. And especially there will be some issues which will be tagged as good first issues or easy or GSoC, etc. So those are the issues which are intended for new people like us. So start with those issues because they are relatively easy to do, and don't start picking up very complex or not tagged issues, because like, be humble. Don't start with a very large issue and then end up asking your mentor that please help me solve this because I can't complete this. Typically an organization will have a requirement that you have to contribute a sample of code, like you have to complete one pull request, you have to merge one pull request in order to apply for proposals. So always be safe. Like, first start with a good small easy nice issue, merge it, and then move on to the harder and harder issues, because you are already applying, like starting early, you already have a lot of time. So go via procedure. If you are working on a big software, then you don't need to know everything about the project, and you should only know what the application does and what is the user perspective, and a high level design of the project, and then you can just focus on the part that you want to work on. So after all, like after starting your first contribution, you also get first contact, and this is very important. So this is the part where you start interacting with your community, with your mentors. So first contact with your mentors is very important because your first impression is going to last long. Okay. So they will always have written somewhere that this is my preferred channel of communication. Some will want you to mail them, some will want you to contact them through Slack or through some other channels. So always contact them using their preferred channel of communication, and introduce yourself properly. Let them know what you are interested in, and if you have on any past experience of working on similar kind of projects or something like that. So do that. um, if you have any questions about what to do next after initiating this content, please first read whatever they have already given, and then when you talk to your mentors, tell them that you have done already these things, like you have read these guidelines and these are the things that you have already done, and now ask a very specific question that this is something that I want to do and I'm not understanding it, please answer, something like that. Also read or old conversations in the community, because a lot of people will be applying, so a lot of conversations will already have happened. So if some answers is already given in previous conversation, so then don't ask that again, because right, mentor is help, don't irritate your help, and be respectful, be polite. So if you want an example, so this is a good example, like this link is given. I will skip this for now. Like, I'm going to share it with you so you can read it later. These are some bad examples. Like, so these are like, this person has just introduced himself, and they have basically intended that I have done everything, let me know what I can do. This is not a good attitude. You should refrain from doing it. Like, ask specific questions, be humble. For example, here this person has asked that I'm looking forward to contribute, and if anyone could help me get started, that would mean a lot. No one is going to come and help you. You are supposed to ask the questions. Like, people are not free for you. You are the contributor, so you have to ask people that what you actually want. So these are some bad examples. There are some more. So these are the things that you should never do. Um, these people have basically, so this person writes that based on my profile, suggest to me any project which I can contribute on minimal effort. So no one is going to decide for you what are good projects for you. This screams that you don't want to put an effort for your particular project. So don't do this. Introduce yourself nicely, properly. If you have any specific question, definitely ask them, but humbly. So this is a good example. Like this person has said that I have already read this much of documentation and this much of guidelines. Um, is there any issues or anything related to this particular project that I can start and like I can work on and start doing some experimental work on that? So he immediately got replied by the mentor that you can go to here and here and you can work on these issues or something like that. Okay, so be like that. This is my personal example. Like I started to contribute early, and then I had some questions because some of the projects were not listed. So I wrote this mail to my organization admins, and I got reply, but other people did not. So this is one of the example that might be a good example. Okay, so these all things you can do in December, January. In February, the organizations which are accepted will be revealed. So now you can, like, it's a high time that you start contributing properly. So everything that you will do from now on will be like in active monitoration. Um, on February 22, accepted organizations will be published. Now it is time to finally narrow down 2 or 3 maximum projects because you can't anyway submit more than 3 proposals. Start contributing to those organizations ASAP. Uh, if you can't solve some errors by yourself, then communicate with your mentors that I have done these things and this is the difficulty that I'm facing, and try to get their help. But do this only after you have exhausted all your resources. Like if there are any other contributors contributing to that for that project, uh, first communicate with them and see if you can resolve the issue among yourself. If you can't, then ask your mentor. Um, Also, if there are some theoretical parts of the project, like if there is some paper that you are supposed to read or some other documentation that you have to read, so start doing that. um, once you like do some contribution on your organization, then ask your mentor a permission to write uh, draft proposals. Once they say yeah, you can go ahead and write a proposal, prepare a draft proposal, and always get it reviewed by your mentors. Like before submitting it officially to GSoC, please submit it once to your mentor and ask them politely that can you please review this proposal. They will give you some feedback, incorporate that feedback, and then finally submit the proposal. Of course, before deadline. And once you do all this, then you can just wait for the results. So this is like basically the timeline that you should follow according to me, which will benefit you a lot for GSoC. And yeah, this essentially ends the GSoC part. But now, even after like knowing all this, if you are not confident enough for GSoC, what you can do. So there are a number of programs which can help you prepare for GSoC. So Girl Script Summer of Code is one of that program. There are some other by our IITs as well. There is Hacktoberfest. You like a lot of you must already know about it. Also, you can read past blogs of GSoC contributors because all contributors of GSoC are supposed to write blogs, and they would have shared their journey in the blogs, so you can see what they have done and you can prepare accordingly. Sometimes you just have to apply for formality, like maybe you will get selected, maybe you won't. Just to know what the procedure is, just apply and you might get selected. Prepare with your friends so they will keep you motivated. This is something that is very important. So if you are not confident enough, then these are the things that you can do before GSoC. What are other programs like GSoC? So there are some very good programs that are similar to GSoC, sometimes better than GSoC. So for example, Outreachy is a program which is very good. It's better than GSoC in some aspect. There is also an MLH fellowship, Linux Foundation mentorship program. So this website lists all these open source internship programs. So you can just go there and see what all are those, and you can also Google. And these are some quick links. These are official Google Summer of Code guidelines for communication best practices or how to get started. What is open source culture, what you should do, what you should refrain from doing. All of those things are written in excruciating detail here. So always like read them first before doing anything. Okay. Yeah. So this basically ends my talk. And if we can now take some questions, if you have any.
So far, so good. There's amazing session was delivered by Tripathi sir. They're most amazing personality. I have constantly in touch with them. And guys, if you have any questions, you can ask the sir itself, and they'll solve your doubts. All the doubts, whatever the doubts you have, you can tell them, and we'll get into the root in the time. Okay, do you have any guys? Do you have any questions? Okay, you can simply raise your hands and I'll allow you to unmute your mic. You can raise your hands. Okay. Shreyas, go ahead.
Uh, First of all, Mihir sir, it was a wonderful like event, or you can say that you delivered to us the set of knowledge about GSoC. My question is that how much of percent of contribution is needed for a proposal, like in a
Right.
organization?
Hmm.
Because I know about GSoC, but I am scared to apply to organizations because of lack of my knowledge and skills. And the things
Right.
you talked about in the presentation
Hmm.
literally taken out of some of my fears. I actually fear to be contributing sometimes because of lack of knowledge into that organization alone. Can you just please?
Yeah. Just give me a moment. Is my screen sharing stopped? Yeah. Okay. So, hi, Shreyas. I understand your question. See, it depends upon organizations. Like when you go to a very competitive organization, there will be typically a lot of students. So, general criteria would be like for some organizations, you just have to like for my organizations, it was a criteria that you have to just submit one merged pull request, and then you are good to go for application. Okay, but some organizations, let's say, who are very competitive, very well known, there will be a lot of students, so they will want you to do more. So it depends upon like uh, organization to organization. But if you really want to get into GSoC, and if you have a good like a little bit wider choices, then you will always find organizations which have typically very simple criteria for application. Like some organizations, like for example, SON that I saw you, they actually have a very strict uh, application procedure. Like each contributors are listed into some kind of system, and then they all get some specific tests. So they have to complete that test. In each of that contributor will get different kind of tests decided by those mentors, and like you have to submit in certain amount of time. So those kind of things are also there. But there are also organizations which you just can contribute like one particular issue, one pull request is enough to start submitting your proposals. So it depends like that.
Okay, sir. Thanks for a lot answering my question. Sir, one small question is, is there any guideline to write like proper proposals? You know?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So there are very good guidelines given to this organization's GSoC page. So let me try to let me show you if I can find one. So let us just go to Open Astronomy's GSoC page only. Okay, and then you will find this link to GSoC contributor guide. So this is like general guide by GSoC. And then there will also be our own guide to good application for open astronomy. So you can click on this and they will have this detailed information of what to do. like what are the steps that you can follow. They will typically also have a template. So you can see here there is an application template where they have shown previous contributors application template, and you can just find out how to write this proposal like this. Like this is a format that they would want it to. So this is like for particular organization, and also you can of course go to GSoC contributor guides like which I showed you earlier, and there you have um, this section of applying, and then there will be a section on writing proposals. So you can also follow this for general guidelines, like there will be, you should have names and title and like synopsis something, what will it benefit from. So this is a general general template, and then in your particular organization where you're applying, they might have some different kind of template. So like ask your, like first always go to their own GSoC page and try to read everything that there is there. There must be an answer to this question there only. If you don't find it anywhere, then ask on the community, and then they will, if there is not there, and then they will answer you. Sometimes if you answer the, like if you ask very trivial questions whose answers are already available on the on Googling, then they won't answer to you. But yeah, so there will always be some template available to you.
Sir, Ayush is asking how did you ask for the organization? Like you mail directly to the mentor regarding the project, or you want to work in or anything else?
Right. So in my case, what happened was, since I was a not computer science background student, I wanted to ask some specific questions regarding, like I wanted to work on projects of certain organizations, and they did not actually listed the projects earlier. So I asked mentors that whether they are going to apply for this year or not. But this is not a typical way of doing it. You just join the community, uh, then you can ask that whether they are considering to apply or not. When you introduce yourself, you just write down with your introduction that I am interested in applying for GSoC next year. So this is how you approach.
So Simran is asking, sir, after submitting the proposals, who selects it internally and what is the internal selection process?
Right, a very good question. So your proposal is going to be evaluated only by your mentors. So like there will be a project and there will be some mentor assigned to it. That person will evaluate your proposal. But the process is little bit complicated. So for example, Open Astronomy in last year's GSoC proposed around 12 projects. Okay. So these were proposed projects. Now each of them had some mentors, and there will be lot of students who will be applying to each of these particular projects. Your mentors will select one best proposal for that particular project, and then they will submit that proposals to your organization admins. Now the organization admins will rank your proposal, rank all those projects based on how important they are to the organizations. Like some projects are very important, so they will be listed in the upper part, and then there will be some which will be given lower priority. Then this all best proposals will be submitted to GSoC team, and GSoC team will then allow, like let's say for Open Astronomy, they allowed seven slots. So first 7 prioritized proposal will get selected, and the others will not get selected. So you have to make your proposal best among the competitors, and it also has to be very important for the organization so that it gets higher priority among other proposals. So this is how you uh, select the project.
Okay, Abhinya? Yes. You can ask your questions. Hello? Okay. Now try. Hello. Now try Abhinay. Okay, I have allowed to you to open the mic.
Yes, am I audible right now?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Yes, you are.
Hello, Mihir.
Hi.
Could you tell me more about the evaluation process? Like, what is the actual criteria? Do they go through the more number of PRs, or what is the minimum
Okay.
aspect?
Mhm. Right. So this is again depends upon various organizations. So first of all, you have to write a nice proposal showing your interest into the project. Then there is also definitely some amount of uh, weightage given to how much contribution you have done and what quality of contribution is there. Like you could have just solved some documentation spelling errors, and that could also be a PR. But if you had actually fixed some issues, then it is better. So it depends upon like different organizations, but you can actually ask this to your mentors, and they will be happy to answer that. Like that will be the best way to find this information.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Guys, other anyone have any questions? So you can raise your voice, raise your hands so that I can allow you for the mic. Okay, or you can put your questions into chat box so that can Mihir San can answer your question. Other than that, Mihir sir is going to share the PPT with the community. So you join the community. You'll get all the details over there, and you can also collaborate. Okay, Ayush sir is asking. I saw project list in GSoC. They have like 5-6 languages or tools as their tags, and there is at least one tag that I don't know about. Is it necessary that I should know all the skills before applying them?
Um, okay, so no, you don't need to know everything, every tags. Like GSSOC is like a preparate, like is for preparing you for GSoC. So they expect that you are a beginner. Um, what they have listed there is most likely that these are the things that you will get from that particular project. So these are the things you will learn during your project. So you don't need to know everything, every tag. Like you can just apply and like say that I don't know this particular thing.
Okay. So, guys, do you have any questions? We have a time foundation and we have crossed the 1.3 hour. And I'll I'll just ask you one more question. If you have any questions, you can ask the Mihir sir itself. They're going to answer all your questions, or you can put it into chat box. Okay. Abhinya, can
Uh,
you?
uh, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
please.
First of all, thanks a lot, sir, for such an amazing presentation and a great PPT which got all the points clear. And thank you for giving out your valuable time to guide our students. I guess everyone has gotten all their doubts cleared by now and definitely got motivated enough. I
Yeah.
would also definitely hope we have a lot of contributors among the attendees this year in GSoC.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And once again, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you all as well. Like it was nice talking to all of you. And like yeah, if you still have any doubts and you would like to ask, then you can come to my LinkedIn and like send me
Yeah.
a message. That is
I'm
fine
s-
with me as well.
I'm sharing the Mihir sir's LinkedIn profile. So guys, if you have any questions, you can direct DM them. You can ask any questions regarding. They'll help you uh, for the anything. So yeah, I'll
Okay.
once more. Do
Yeah.
you have any
So
questions, guys? Okay. So let's wrap up the meet. Thank you so much, Mihir sir, for joining, and we are so glad for the you come to
sure.
here and everything you have provided. The PPT was so awesome, and every detail. Uh, PPT itself is a true example of the research you have done, and it is really amazing. We are going to share the PPT soon with the committee members. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, everyone, for joining.
Okay, bye. Okay, guys, bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
I have to go. But yeah, it was nice meeting all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys. I'm ending the meet. Okay. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.